Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry. And this is Adrian Reads Harry Potter.
You were ready for it this
time. I was ready. I mean, it's been 3 weeks now. I've learned to anticipate that pause that I just need to continue forward. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, chapters 21 and 22. Getting into some good stuff here.
Are we?
We are setting the next chapter is going to be very critical, very important.
Towards?
So, the plot of this and the rest of the series.
So, when you're writing a book, it need not be that every chapter is important to the plot.
Well, every chapter should be important to the plot, but you got to take what you can get.
You
got to take what you can get. But anyway, let me do a quick rundown here of these chapters. We have chapter 21, The Unknowable Room.
Nothing happens.
Nothing happens in that chapter. I have hardly any notes about this. Harry receives his first report from Kreacher and Dobby and realizes Malfoy's been using the Room of Requirement with Crabbe and Goyle standing guard in disguise.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Chapter 22,
20 pages of it, though. It took 20 pages to get there.
22, after the burial, Aragog has died. Harry sneaks off to the funeral, and he gets Slughorn good and drunk. And through Felix Felicis, he convinces him to finally share his memory with him. Use that good old luck serum.
Yeah, some of it.
Some of it. Can't take it all. It didn't need a full day of luck, just need a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
But we now have the memory in question. And we are going to move forward from that. We are going to finally find out what this big hinging memory is. Anything you want to talk about these couple chapters here?
Well, he needed luck for 3 hours, right? Something like that.
Okay.
$10 says that the next time he uses that luck serum, whatever he really, really needs it for happens in the 22 to 24 hour range.
Just didn't have enough? Okay.
And then it comes out later, oh my goodness, you were not under the luck serum Felix Felicis spell. You were just that good, Harry.
Aww. It was in him all along.
Just like it was with Ron.
Isn't that sweet? That is a very interesting scene here. And I mentioned this to you. You've never seen the films either.
No.
And just out of happenstance, I just happened to watch Half-Blood Prince just a couple weeks ago. And the scene where...
You texted me about that, didn't you?
I did.
I didn't. Or did you mention it on the show?
I think I mentioned it on the show.
I didn't even realize that it was the same movie as the book we're reading.
Yeah, because like it just happened to be on. I'm like, yeah, let's watch it. The scene where Aragog has died, and there's this little funeral scene between Hagrid, Slughorn, and Harry, in the film is just gorgeous. It is well done, well filmed. I love it. I'm tempted to show it to you because it doesn't really give away any spoilers, but you know, we'll get there. We'll figure it out. However, that is a very important scene because due to Felix Felicis and Harry's luck, which is happenstance that he decides to go visit Hagrid instead of trying to pursue Slughorn, he has now acquired that memory, that all-important memory that Dumbledore has sent him to acquire. So that's going to be the gusto of the next chapter, is figuring that out and breaking it down.
Right.
However, we again get another little theme that seems to be pretty prevalent in this book here, is maybe just have a couple drinks, you know?
Yeah, this is so far the book of drunkenness.
It really is. Now, I can appreciate that in the sense that Aragog is a friend of Hagrid's. And any time I've had someone close die to me, I mean, that's kind of what you do. You toast the dead. You have a good couple drinks, talk about the old memories. So it is a very good scene and a very realistic scene. And we also get to see a little bit of tidbits towards who Hagrid is as a person. There's been a lot of ambiguity lately of, you know, who's a good guy, who's a bad guy, what traits did they inherit. But very subtly, it's mentioned that Hagrid not only is, you know, in possession of Arachnantula. Is that the big spider, what it's called? He's in possession of the venom.
Oh.
Doesn't seem to care, whatever.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
He's also in possession of unicorn hair, which is extremely valuable, but he doesn't care. He only uses it to create bandages for the creatures when they're hurt.
It does not seem to be that he doesn't care. It seems to be that he's aloof.
I don't know if he's aloof. I think because, I mean, Hagrid is in the trading business, as we saw when he had his dragon, Norbert.
Sure.
So he would understand the price of these things here, but he rather banks on the utility of them. He'd rather keep this around to care for the creatures that are injured rather than sell it, like Slughorn, and make a quick dollar.
Well, here's the thing. You sell it and make that quick dollar, how much better care can you take of some of these creatures? Getting them things they need.
I mean, unless we could argue that unicorn hair is the best option for the creatures. But it seems that Hagrid he's very proud of his craft. He's knowledgeable in his craft, and he does what is best for the creatures that he's caring for. So you get that little quick tidbit of information that really puts Hagrid in a good light here. And obviously he's very distraught because not only has one of his creatures passed away, but he viewed him as a friend, as an equal.
Right.
So that's a good thing. Good thing from Hagrid there.
Well, and it was his end to the forest, right? Now there's
just that portion of the forest, yeah.
But there's places in the forest he can't go now.
Yeah, this is the first time he has ever been barred from a certain place in the forest. All the other spiders will eat him, basically. They were told not to touch him due to Aragog.
Right.
But nonetheless, he still got the corpse out of there so he could give him a proper burial the way he saw fit, so the other spiders just didn't eat him.
Yeah,
so,
I want to know how that happened. That's one of those scenes that would be interesting to see, you know.
But you will never get it. Yeah. Anything you'd like to talk on here?
Well, in chapter 22, you want to talk about drunkenness. This really is the book of negative social influences, of peer pressure.
Okay.
Basically, in that chapter, Ron and Hermione are of the mindset, Hagrid needs us? We snuck out 1,000 times? Yeah, but fuck that spider. What's that, Harry? You've got goals? Fuck that. Take your luck potion with Slug Thing so that we can quit hearing you bitch about not being able to get those memories.
Okay.
Right?
All right. It is kind of disappointing to see Ron and Hermione cast in that light. It's one of those things, especially like if you have a friend of a friend passes away, sometimes things get a little wonky. People handle grief differently, very differently. But you kind of just do whatever you can to be there for him. You don't just say, it's just a spider, so no, I'm good.
Yeah.
So we do at least get to see that Harry goes to visit him at least, although he does have different motives.
Yeah, he didn't want to.
He didn't want to, but he was still
to.
there.
In fact, along those lines, I've got this quote from 477. Well, here goes, Harry said. He raised the little bottle and took a carefully measured gulp. What does it feel like? Whispered Hermione. Harry did not answer for a moment. Then slowly but surely, an exhilarating sense of infinite opportunity stole through him. He felt as if he could have done anything at all. And getting the memory from Slughorn seemed suddenly not possible, but relatively easy. He got to his feet, smiling, brimming with confidence. Excellent, he said. Really excellent. Right, I'm going down to Hagrid's. Allow me to quote the great philosopher Eric Clapton. Cocaine.
Okay.
Yeah, that drug is a lot like the effects of cocaine sound.
Okay.
Have you ever known anyone that took cocaine?
I have.
Basically, the way it's been described to me, I've never done it, everything sounds like a great idea.
Oh, it's a great idea, absolutely. And it's almost that instantaneous great idea.
Yeah.
Where you put your head up from the table and you're like, well, let's go do this. Yeah. All is well now. Okay, so if we have, alcohol obviously being used here, love potions being used in place of alcohol.
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure. We now have Felix Felicis in the form of cocaine. Interesting.
Cocaine in the form of Felix Felicis.
Cocaine in the form of Felix Felicis. And, I mean, little luck as well is along with that. I'm not sure people who take cocaine are specifically lucky.
But I guarantee you they believe everything worked out.
Okay, all right. Fair statement there, fair statement. However, that scene there, I do enjoy that scene. I think it's well done. The idea when he's strolling down to Hagrid's, the door's unlocked as it should have been. It was a good way of writing about luck and chance and circumstance. And you ever just have that really good day where things are just going well, you got all your work done, everything's perfect. It captures that well. He's strolling by the pumpkin patch and he takes time to realize how nice it looks. I think that's well done, honestly. Really, I do, through J.K. Rowling's writing.
Well done how?
It's well written. It really captures that sense of just a damn good day where things are working out.
Because of the chances that everything works out?
Not so much the chances.
Like it does throughout the rest of Harry Potter?
Not so much the chances. It's just those little tidbits that are added in there where he's, strolling through and he's admiring, the scenery and everything just feels right.
So 90% of Harry Potter is the same way. This Felix Felicis just adds 10% of, it could have been worse.
Well, that 10% was well written. I will give it that. I
don't think it was.
I think it was.
Put qualifiers on it. Tell me how it was well written.
It's that pumpkin patch image where he's strolling past and he takes the time to admire the pumpkin patch and realize how nice it looks. It's that idea of when you go outside and everything's great, everything's working out, you're having a damn good day, you start to appreciate little things that you haven't normally appreciated. Your mind's not distraught on worrying about trying to get things done, get things fixed. He's just enjoying himself. I think it was captured well in that scene.
I don't think it takes much to impress you.
Okay, well maybe that's it. Maybe I just like pumpkin patches. It is fall season. That pumpkin spice is rolling in, so maybe
Yeah,
your
that
pumpkin
just spice lattes are coming back.
I haven't
aren't they?
had one yet this year, but I'm gonna have my one, take my drink, and be like, this is disgusting. Throw it away.
Last year, did you have the hair?
Did I have this hair? No.
$10 says you enjoy the pumpkin spice latte a lot more this year.
Yeah, the hair just gonna make it feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair here. Now the scene where
Is there anything else that I can poke you with to get you a little more on edge? Because I don't quite think you're there yet.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you can continue forward, but I mean, at this point, I just usually ignore you and carry on talking, so.
All right.
All right. The scene where Harry does acquire the memory from Slughorn, though, we get to see some, like, very shady tactics being utilized by old Harry in that one. Which, I mean, again, if we're going to be qualifying Harry as the good guy, the ultimate good, the chosen one, and we're juxtaposing him against Hagrid, who does seem to be inherently a good person, the tactics Harry is using here are incredibly shady. Very shitty person.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and drink with Hagrid? Because then he'll be drunk, and then you can get whatever you want off of him. That is not a good friend thing to do. So again, this is sort of a peer pressure situation.
I would agree with you there.
Especially when you're talking about abuse of a corpse.
Okay.
Right? Imagine that beard of yours was magical.
As it is.
And you went ahead and kicked the bucket. And I had your roommate Josh over and just let him snip the beard.
True.
It's not even that. It would be, I mean, because Slug Thing is not a natural friend of Hagrid.
True. He's
right?
just there, and Hagrid even specifies he's never really had much to do with Slughorn.
Yeah. So he's there strictly for that.
For profit.
Yeah.
And again, I think the film does this more justice. It does it quite well because it's actually at the funeral where he's like, Hagrid, if you don't mind, this is a very rare venom. Do you think it would be appropriate if I just took a small vial? And Hagrid says, best used. I mean, might as well, do what you can.
Yeah.
I'm sure Aragog would have liked it that way. So it is done a little bit better in the film version, in my opinion, but that's, beyond it. But then we also...
Well, I think that's part of the difference between writing and a visual medium.
Okay.
Right? In the visual medium, you were forced into reconciliation with that event, whether you really catch it or not. It would be possible in writing to read through it and not catch how vile that is.
Okay.
Right?
Not to continue on with this film and book comparison, but I really want you to see this scene because I think it would absolutely justify a lot of the things you're arguing. Once Harry takes the Felix Felicis, it's a very funny scene because he's sitting there with Ron and Hermione. He's like, I'm going to go see Hagrid. And he just goes. And they're kind of, flabbergasted, whatever. But during the funeral scene, they're talking about, why, most people don't enjoy spiders. And Harry is just visibly schlitzed. He's like, well, it's the teeth, He's
Really?
wasted on Felix Felicis. And, it really puts a new light on it. And, it's subtle in the book.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, because you're not looking at it.
Yeah.
Right?
But when you see it in a film aspect, it's full bore. It's there. Which I think is very interesting that possibly they left out a few things. Like the whole memories behind Voldemort with Merope, whatever you want to call her.
They left that out of the movie?
Not so much in the movie.
Because it's problematic.
Exactly.
I mean, it's something that is obviously problematic the minute you read it, as long as you're thinking about it, right?
So there is a very interesting thing going on here with the written media and the visual media. Like I said, that scene's great. I'm going to have to show it to you whether you want to see it or not. So
Yeah, we'll see.
I think it's wonderful. But furthermore, on what Harry is doing in this situation, not only has he gotten Hagrid drunk, so Hagrid passes out and he can confide with Slughorn, who is also very intoxicated, to the point he can't even say Harry's name properly. He floats into the, hey, you remember my mom? Yeah, she died. Yeah. Do you know how she died? Let me tell you. Let me paint you a picture of how she died. And, if you were a good person, you'd help me out to help her.
Yeah.
That's a really shitty thing to do, Harry Potter.
Yeah,
it
like
really
I say,
is.
a lot of peer pressure type incidents throughout, and I'm like now that I'm noticing them in this section, I'm wondering how many more there are in this book that I just didn't pick up on because they were spaced out just enough, or you know what I'm saying? That they don't stand out as egregious. It seems that Drago is peer pressuring his friends. His friends don't seem to want to look like the girls, do they? So there's some from that angle.
It's interesting as well because, I mean, this book is specifically geared towards young readers. And if you're trying to teach a young reader a lesson, peer pressure is obviously a thing in this age group, 16, 17 years old. And the old adage is, you're always supposed to resist peer pressure, you be the better person. In this, J.K. Rowling's basically just saying, hey,
this is how you get stuff done.
It's how you get stuff done, man. You just gotta, bite the bullet and go with it.
But so you bring up the age group. Mm-hmm. Did you have Dare?
I did have Dare. I was, yeah.
When did you have Dare?
Oh, I would say probably middle school. So
okay, we had it in grade school.
No, it was middle school for us, I'm pretty sure.
Middle school for you? We had it in grade school. So as early as grade school, peer pressure becomes a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to buy it that you're saying now that these characters are 16, she's working that in for verisimilitude.
Okay. I would say 5th or 6th grade. I don't know what middle school is where you're from, but that's always been a weird thing.
6th is middle school here.
Okay. So middle school starts in 5th grade where I went to school. So I think it was probably about 5th or 6th that we had the good old Dare conversations and all that good stuff, which a program that failed horribly, by the way.
Yeah, just say no.
Just say no. It doesn't work. Not so much.
Yeah.
But anyway, we do get to a good glimpse into some peer pressure. I think that's a good way of putting it in this scene.
Do you know why Dare failed?
Why did Dare fail?
Do you remember getting the STD talks?
Not particularly, I don't believe.
So when we were in high school, we had to go through the STD talks.
Okay.
It was supposed to be a sexual education course, right?
Okay.
This mini sexual education course that I think it was 9th graders have to go through.
I do remember something similar to that. I think they schluffed it off to the home economics teacher who just spent a week doing it and then we're moving on. We're going to sew pillows now.
And what do? They just post pictures. They show you pictures of all the STDs.
Okay.
Right? So this is a penis with a bunch of things growing out of it. Terrifying. So people don't have sex for a while.
Okay.
With drugs and alcohol, you can't do that.
Fair.
Jimmy here is drunk. Looks like he's having a great time. But let me tell you about the effects 30 years down the line.
Not fun, kids. Not fun. Interesting.
Roger here is on cocaine. Smiling, but let me tell you the downside.
Roger's having a great day right now. But tomorrow's not going to be that great, now is it? Okay. And I do think there are some interesting things going on here that are relating the wizarding world to the real world. Especially with the apparition thing, where, certain students are allowed to do it, certain students aren't due to age, much like driving.
That's another question I had from this chapter. How come the house elves are allowed to apparate on campus?
House elf magic is different magic. That is brought up multiple times throughout the series, where house elves, their magic is different than the wizarding world. So they can get away with some things. They can apparate and disapparate inside of Hogwarts.
Different hinged on a mechanism inherent to house elfdom?
I'm not
Because
sure.
otherwise, why wouldn't Moldavort just house elf apparate onto campus?
I think it's something that only house elves can do. It's a specific magic that is inherent to the house elf. So, if house elves are incredibly faithful. So, if you wanted one to do your bidding, it wouldn't be difficult. Basically, if you own him, he'll disapparate for you right into Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Apparate into Hogwarts, excuse me. But that is something that's going on there. And, did you have driver's ed in high school?
I didn't.
Okay.
I don't think we had it at all where I went to high school.
It was definitely optional when I was in high school. It was like a summer course. I never took it. But I do remember that age group when everybody's, getting their driver's license and learning to drive. You do feel left out. I was one of the youngest ones in my grade. So I was one of the last ones.
You're talking about that Harry can't do the
Yeah, so Harry... that's absolutely easy to relate to for somebody of that age group reading this book at this point in time. So, it works. It does. Yeah. It's a good mechanism. Anything else you want to talk about here? Anything you got in mind?
With these chapters, not so much as far as is really striking me in this book how post 9/11 in text it seems.
Okay.
I don't have any thoughts rounded up on that, but it really does. It's 2005.
2005, yes.
in that world, so many of these things were suddenly questions
Okay.
that were not before. And here they are being presented in a work of fiction. I would like to say literature, but it's just writing for kids. But it is interesting how, I'm not sure how to say this. One thing that pops up when you are reading texts from different times are the ideas that the author assumes you share with him or her.
Okay.
Right? So when some of these things are happening, the increased security at a school, we're sharing these ideas with J.K. Rowling.
Okay.
These are assumptions that we have as well. So, we do not question them. If you took this text back in time to the 60s, it would have seemed awfully authoritarian
Okay.
to have all of those practices in place at a school.
But given the environment of the people who had been reading this in 2005, it seemed very comfortable. It seemed very
Right.
acceptable.
So
Okay.
that is one of those things that it is interesting to notice with a concurrent text that will be different for future generations.
Okay.
And that future generations will look back on this text and say, oh, okay, well, this has hallmarks of a post 9/11 text.
Okay.
This has hallmarks of we're having a lot of discussions about things, not just security-wise, but assumptions made about people, right? That are no longer ideas which were found only in texts presented by the other.
Okay.
Right? So prior to this, if you wanted a metaphor for otherdom, you go to an other writer, right? A black author,
Okay.
a female author, but each other would be presenting a different type of other.
Okay.
This text is presenting a situation that is very aware of the other,
Okay.
which might be later considered a hallmark of a post 9/11 text. This not so okay. White authors, mainstream authors prior to this writing about the other, what was the other they were writing about? The other they were writing about was in an alien sense, right? A science fiction sense. This other is coming to invade,
Okay.
right? This text has an awareness of the other, which is we're trying to feel out the other. So who is the other among us?
Okay. I think it's going to be interesting moving forward in, just literature in general is how things are going to be interpreted in that sense. That's a good point to bring up.
Well, and it also, along the same lines, when you're talking about those things, texts will get classified by these hallmarks into okay, so something like, was the Stepford Wives? The Stepford Wives, I can't remember who wrote the Stepford Wives.
Couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
But it will probably end up being classified as a post 9/11 text.
Okay.
Despite the fact, now it's probably not going to be called post 9/11. There will be some other phrase for that movement. It will be classified in a subclassification as this type of text as well.
Okay.
Because there is this great sense of the other and who are they in it.
Okay. There's a lot of talk here as well. Basically, the horrors of war are being, witnessed through these students' eyes, and it's very subtly done, which is a good idea because this is a children's novel. But we do get a scene where a 5-year-old kid was attacked by a werewolf.
Yeah.
And his siblings are in school and in the grieving process, and it's mentioned, that, he died in the hospital from the werewolf attack, which, if you're reading, okay, you move on. But if you sit down and break it down, that is a gruesome death.
Yeah.
That is not a quick snuffing. That is massive, massive casualty amount. And it's a brutal death. But that's very subtle. It's very just kind of skidded upon, but it does leave that image in your mind that this is war, and the atrocities of war are very real. So, I mean, there's a lot going on with that in this piece here. We keep getting mention of the Inferi as well, the animated corpses that are brought forth by basically a dark wizard, necromancer if you want to go to the fantasy realm, to do bidding, and that's a terrifying thing as well. So I'm hoping, and here soon, that we're going to get some more horror elements that you might be able to pick up on. And maybe just more... It's difficult to say realistic when you're talking about a fantasy world, but realistic ideas of the atrocities of war.
Well, this has always been a text. I mean, we're 6 books in now. It's always been a text that very clearly took influences from the real world, right? Absolutely. Not as guarded in their influences as something like Lord of the Rings, where you got to do a little digging there. Yeah. You know, this is very surface, but it's always sort of been there.
Okay. Well, we will continue next week with more Adrian Reads Harry Potter. We're going to start talking about Horcruxes next week, and that is a huge thing. So pay close attention to that. Next week's chapters are Horcruxes and Sectum Sempra, which would be the spell that Harry found in the potions book. So both are going to be very important chapters. A lot of stuff's going to be going on with that. So hopefully you'll find a little bit more enjoyment out of that, and if not, we'll continue to move that plot forward towards the end of this novel, get you closer towards the end. See, I'm trying. I'm appealing to your own best interests now. Feel good about that? Okay. As always, if you like this kind of thing, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and give this video a like as well, because it's going to make me feel a lot better about being glared at right now. And if you are interested in helping us create more content like this on Strip Cover Lit, there is a link, as always, to our Patreon in the description below.
I had to blow my nose this whole fucking video.